What's good, y'all? Welcome to Conversation Piece with Patrick Armstrong. I am the titular Patrick, and this is a show where we talk about the missing pieces of the conversations we're already having. Shout out to our returning listeners, and a high five and hello to everybody joining us for the very first time. I appreciate each and every one of you being here this year in 2024, the year of the nap. My guest today is an entrepreneur and artist who expresses his passion through his clothing brand, St. Avenue. Every piece he creates is made with intention and purpose and is about defining and developing a personal universe that contains the watermark of an individual style. If you were in the Nap during All-Star this year, I bet you saw some of his work in the streets, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I am extremely hyped for this conversation, so without further ado, it is my honor and privilege to welcome LaStar Jackson to the show. What's good, man?
Man, what's going on, man? Thank you for having me. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to be here.
It's exciting time. I came across your work, I think it might have been right before All-Star. I think it was, I don't know if it was a We Don't Run collaboration or if it was just something one-off, but I was just like, yo, this stuff is fire. I got to meet this person. And I've been very privileged to have some connections with you. And then again, extremely hyped to be able to sit down and have this conversation.
Man, I'm excited, man. Thank you. That was a great introduction as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've been working on it. All right, before we jump in, you happened to have brought something for me, and I wanted to unbox it right here on the show. So take a look at it. All right, we're going to take a look at it. In this big old box.
Yeah.
This big old box. I don't do unboxings very often, so I don't know the appropriate way to be unboxing this. Hey! Okay, get this box out of here. Check this thing out.
Yeah, man.
All right, can you tell the people a little bit what we're looking at?
Yeah, that is the St. Avenue and We Don't Run Letterman vest. Yes. Yeah, that we released during All-Star Weekend this year.
Hell yeah. One of the 3 drops from All-Star Weekend that you were involved in.
Yeah, one of 3.
With the sometimes it's ugly and sometimes it's beautiful patch on the inside.
Yeah, most of the time it's both.
Bro, thank you so much.
No problem.
I'm going to put this thing on.
No problem at all, man.
This is a first for the show. Exclusive for the show. Clothing drop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. As soon as I saw these things posted.
Oh, yeah, it looks good too, yeah.
This is...
Yeah.
Honestly, my wife was like, you have to get one of those vests. She was like, you don't iron any vests. And I'm like, that's not really my thing. But when I saw the jacket...
Yeah.
I got to sit down. Are we looking? Get that in the shop, Mike. Get that in the shop, Mike. Man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I was not expecting that today.
Thank you. No, thank you, man.
100%. Well, it's been a pleasure supporting you and the work that you've been doing in the city, and we are going to get into that. Gave you a little bit of an intro, so before we jump into, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, who is just becoming familiar with you, do you mind sharing a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. My name is LaStar Jackson. I am the owner and founder of St. Avenue. I started St. Avenue back in 2016, pretty much just out of, I don't want to say desperation, but out of, the love of clothing. I actually was going to not do clothing anymore. We didn't get into that, further down the line. But I released St. Avenue in 2016, just as a creative outlet, to just express my individuality and intentionality within streetwear, So it's been a great journey thus far. We've done some amazing things in a short period of time, so I'm grateful for that. And just continuously learning and building relationships throughout the city. So
100%. I feel like ever since I've come across St. Avenue and your work, it's felt like you've been on a meteoric rise just even in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
It's been awesome to watch and see. Well, let's dig into the past a little bit. Let's get some context as we move into this conversation. As I was doing some research and learning a little bit more about your backstory, I read that your mom played a significant role in your interest in fashion. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that experience with her, and if you remember the first fit she ever put you in.
Man, I can't remember the first fit, but my mom, she definitely played an important role, to why I, drifted off into fashion. When I was younger, I don't know if a lot of people know about the boosters and everything, but like my mom used to shop from boosters, back then. And it was just something that, I don't know, it was just expressive for, for her to just kind of, have her kids dressed nice and neat, especially in the environment that we were in, where, it wasn't a lot of things for people, resources and different things like that for people. But like in that environment, she was, made it a point to kind of have us always dressing nice and neat, despite, the circumstances.
For sure. And you grew up in East Chicago, right?
Yes, East Chicago that's my home. Yeah, I'm a Regioneer, so I'm kind of from all of that way, Chicagoland.
For sure, Regioneer.
Yeah.
I'm also a Regioneer, even if my part of the region is in the country and has no relationship or proximity to the actual region. But was your mom, was that always something, like you said, she wanted to make sure y'all look good.
Yeah.
But was that something that she was always interested in?
Yeah, herself.
Okay.
Yeah, herself. Yeah, her as well. So she was, into clothing. She was into style, and, she pretty much styled me all the way up until, my junior year of high school. So, yeah, she played a very pivotal role, in the things that I wore. She kind of, put me onto different brands and things like that very young. So I was kind of hip to a lot of the brands and things that people are kind of like finding out about now. I knew about those things way back then, man, when I was younger. So
an originator.
Originator, man. So I've always been into the, the whole ecosystem of fashion and who designs what, especially when it comes to streetwear. So like, that's been a part of my life. Even if I didn't do clothes, I would still be, heavily invested in what it is.
Did you feel like you were always going to get into fashion in some form, or?
No, man, no. Not as far as designing, no.
Okay.
No, not even styling, man. I just like getting nice. You know, I just like dressing nice and putting on nice things. I would say, like, even in high school, I won best dress. So, like, that still wasn't, I didn't even have an inkling like, oh, yeah, maybe I should get into clothing. It was just something that I like to do, you know? I just like to look nice, just like to dress nice. It was, important to me. And I think for everyone, your appearance and how you carry yourself, that all matters, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's always been important.
Well, something that we don't think about a lot, but it plays into like this idea of first impressions.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the fit that you have on when somebody sees you for the first time is automatically going to start generating assumptions or whatever the case is, even if that's maybe not the right way to go about it. That's generally how we operate as humans. And I love that your mom was like, not just like putting you in as a young kid, because like we just had our first kid and we're going through that. My wife loves to style him and pick out all these fits and stuff. But to continue that relationship and just that connection, I think is really cool. So what was the impetus to get into fashion? I know that let me ask you that.
Yeah, so what drove me to get into fashion, man, it's a long story, but we're just gonna make it short. So the end of high school, man, I come from a military family, know, heavy military on both sides. Yep. So my mother, she pretty much like was forcing me to choose. Like, I had a partial scholarship for football, but she was like, if anything happens to you, that's not guaranteed, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to pay a bunch of money for you to go to school, you know what I mean? So go the military route. And it was to a point, man, to where like my mom would have like recruiters out at home. I'm leaving, man, going to, have a great Saturday somewhere in the city. And I leave out, there's a recruiter right there at the door, man. So she was like really heavy on me going to the military, right? So at this time, man, I had obviously turned down the scholarships because I thought that I was, going to join the military at this time. And I failed the ASVAB on purpose, man. I knew that it wasn't for me. I knew that I didn't want to go into the military. So, I had an opportunity to take the ASVAB, and I failed it intentionally. You know? I just marked C on everything. I'm going to be honest. Like, I just marked C on everything because, in my heart of hearts, it just wasn't what I wanted to do, And so time is running out, everybody's leaving off to go to college and everything. And, me, I'm thinking I'm grown and can make the best decisions for my life. I'm like, hey, you know what? I got family in California. Let me just go to California and try to make something happen. And my mom's like, hell no, you're not doing that. What's the school your girlfriend's going to? Whatever. So at this time, man, I've never heard of the school ever, man. But the girl that I was dating at the time, she was going to Vincennes University for fashion merchandising. And so reached out to her. I'm like, hey, what's the name of that school you're going to? And it's Vincennes. And I said, what you majoring in? She said, fashion merchandising. And so she kind of breaks it down to me. She's like, it's basically shopping. And I'm like, well, shit, I shop now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that.
Like, I like to shop. So, I end up, signing up and getting into the fashion program there at Vincennes University, man. And then, like, the rest is history.
For sure.
I mean? So I got involved. Once I got to Vincennes, they didn't have any sports teams outside of, basketball, baseball, soccer. I was removed from basketball at this point, so it wasn't any going back at this point. And so I just kind of, delved deeper into my academics, and then I got into, fashion. They had a fashion show that was going on there, and so they asked me to be a part of it. And, once I became a part of it, man, it just kind of like opened up a whole different world for me, on top of, the courses I was studying in college.
100%.
So,
I appreciate you sharing all that, and a lot to unpack from this. So I'm going to there's a couple pieces I want to pull out. First one, what position did you play in football?
Man, I played defensive end and defensive tackle. Yeah, man. I moved around a lot during that line.
Where were you looking to potentially go to play?
Man, so ISU had offered me a scholarship.
Okay.
I got one from Grand Valley State as well. And so I was looking more so to go to ISU because all of my homies that I played football with in high school were going there. So that was pretty much like the top of my list. Because it was pretty much bringing the whole core from where, Maryville, where I played football at. They were all going to be together. So that was pretty much like the top of my list amongst some others. But,
Grand Valley State, though, that's pretty good. Strong D2. Championship contender.
Yeah, it is.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Okay, and then, so you don't end up doing that. But you take the ASVAB, fail on purpose. Have you had this conversation with your moms about... Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she know about that now, man. It was like I'm always I'm going with my heart in pretty 100%. Much everything I do. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't feel right, man, I got the discernment to kind of just like, what, this isn't for me, and I'm actually just doing this to make my mom happy versus making myself happy.
I think that's a really mature decision to be able to make at that time because I feel like it doesn't seem driven by like an ego situation and just more like an identity one. Yeah. Like, okay, like in your core, like this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And then to like kind of to actively resist like something that your mom wants you to do. And to be like, I'm gonna forge my own path from here. When at 18, you're allowed to like obviously have the opportunity 100%. To do that. But I think it just shows an intentionality that I think shows up in a lot of your work. And so that brings us to the fashion show. I think when we talked previously, I think you shared that you were not only tapped to be a part of it, but to like organize and put the whole thing together. Yes. Tell us about that experience.
So down in Vincennes, they had different factions. They had Black Male Initiative, Black Student Association, Women of Essence, just a lot of different Black organizations for, students of color to be a part of. Mm-hmm. So I ended up becoming president of the Black Student Association, ended up creating Love International Fashion Group because we had a lot of different talent from a lot of different backgrounds involved in the fashion show. We would pretty much have like opening model calls and things like that for, students that were coming in and students that were already attending, the school and things. So we were able to just kind of do things. I mean, I don't want to say like it was amateur, but like very amateur, but we wanted to do things on a more professional scale. And I think that like us having those model calls and us kind of doing that screening process allowed, for a lot of us to grow even after that. Right. And what it is that we do as far as fashion and as far as just business and different things. So we kind of ran the fashion show just like a businessman early,
Well, it's like you setting the foundation because it's like I've never done anything like this before. Were you, as you're going through that process, were you drawing upon any of like your childhood experiences just getting fitted by your mom and like working through that? Were you ever aware at that time about like the goings on behind the scenes of fashion, or were you just like learning on the fly in the moment at Vincennes as you were setting the show up?
Yeah, I was learning on the fly, and then you obviously had America's Next Top Model and different things like that to kind of pull from. Sure. So that was kind of like the Rolodex that we kind of, went through to do this process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had and we also had dancers and different things like that too. So it was a lot of different dynamics that we were looking for.
Okay.
You know, when we
So it
put
wasn't
this
just like
on.
your one-off, like walk the runway.
Yeah, no.
style.
Yeah, we had people, we had choreographers and everything. You
Okay.
know? So people from the dance team down at school. So it was like a whole full-on production versus just like, hey, walk. You know, even though that was very essential,
Sure.
walking obviously because that was the main portion. But you know, we had choreographers, dancers. We had a lot of different things going on. So
It's like truly like a show, like an entertainment
Yes.
event, essentially. What was the drive to go in that direction as opposed to just like making sure we get the runway set and like just doing purely for the fashion? Like, what was it like? We want to put on a fuller production than that.
yeah, we just want to make this thing bigger than what it has been. You know,
Okay, just going for the sheer scale of it.
Yeah,
and the
for
first
sure.
go.
And then I think too, like I told you, like they didn't have sports, so like I was into
Had the
my
time.
education. Yeah, I had time to really kind of like, you know, listen to different soundtracks and how I want this fashion show to be themed and how we want to plan this one out. Who do we want to invite? You know, and then we would travel around and we would see how different schools would do their, you know, fashion shows and entertainment. Like it wasn't just, hey, get here, walk the runway and voila, that's the show.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, we brought a drum line down, you know, we would invite different schools. So like we would have IU come down, ISU, Purdue, you know, if they had different dance teams, we would invite them down, you know, to come in and during our intermission to kind of get theirs off as well, you know, and give them a different exposure.
I love that because I feel like it is indicative of this idea of community that I think permeates a lot of your work too. And it's like, okay, here's some of that origin of that. Man, I'm wondering like what happens next after you. Okay, actually, let me back up just a little bit. Did you feel like when you what did you feel like after that first show was over? Like what was it like I'm overwhelmed by this or was it like I'm ready to go and do the next show? What were you
Yeah,
where were you
actually it's that I'm on to the next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think sometimes with myself, that can sometimes be a hindrance, you know what I mean? Because me personally, I'm always trying to just outdo myself. I'll do the last thing that I've done. So I'm not really like settling into like, hey, this happened and this was a good thing. You know, I'm trying to do that a lot more now. But like even up to this point, it was always, all right, got to outdo what we already done. Like, how can this thing get better? How can it get bigger? You know, because I know talented people all over. Like, how can we get them involved? You know, how can we get them into the light that they want to be in as well? Like, how can they benefit from this? You know, so I'm always looking to like involve other people who I feel may benefit and that I can benefit from too. And not only that, like I'm inspired by them too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's always like why you see a lot of community in my work. You see I use a lot of regular people versus models and, you know, my pictures and stuff with my clothing brand. You know? It's just all about the people who I can touch. I can touch a person, right? This person who's in my photo, I can talk to them after we're done shooting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
It's not transactional. It's like we're building a relationship.
Exactly. Like I don't have to reach out to the agency. You know what I mean? I can call this person on their phone and have a conversation. Hey, you mind being in this photo shoot? You know what I mean? And is this something you would want to do? And most of the times it's yes. Like, because it's not only beneficial to me, it's beneficial to them as well.
For sure. Did you build a part of your like core team that you would work with here at Vincennes?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not for St. Avenue.
Yeah. Okay, well, at the same time, the reason I ask, I guess, is because at the same time as you're doing events and like putting on shows and productions and going to class, learning about the merchandising aspect of it, you start your first brands, Leonardo and Royce. And then eventually get onto Sovereign Concept. So what pushed you into like really extending your own personal brand? Like this is LaStar's thing.
So a couple things. The first thing was I had an opportunity to intern at Gucci in Chicago, right? And so, you know, I'm doing a lot of things here with the fashion show. I got Leonardo and Royce. It's just right now a name, you know, at this point. But outside of that, you know, I'm on a dean's list. I'm heavily involved in the fashion program. I'm doing, I'm president of Black Student Association. I'm a student ambassador. All of these different things, you know, and my resume alone right there just showed that I was prepared for this internship. For sure. And the director said that I wasn't ready. So she pretty much went write my letter of recommendation. So I didn't get the internship. She just said that she felt like I was a big fish in a small pond. Yeah, and said that if I were to do that internship, she felt that I would be a small fish in a big pond. And she didn't feel that I was ready.
Interesting.
Yeah, man.
How did that feel?
It felt shitty, man.
Yeah, sure.
Like, what you mean? Like, it felt shitty.
No,
like,
for sure.
Yeah, it felt shitty. It was discouraging, I had questions about, even me continuously doing it because you get praise. Like, I had a professor, rest in peace, man, Mrs. Nardine, and she was like a mentor as well as a professor, and she was very encouraging. So, like, she was one to write one of the letters of recommendation, so like I was confused. You know what I mean? I was confused and I was just like, what more is it that I can do? And I'm only doing, what I'm able to do within my walls, you know what I mean? So I'm like, it's not Vincennes, it's not big. So, what do you mean? Like, you don't know how I can move around with the big, with the big fishes until I'm in there with them, So, it was discouraging, but that was one of the reasons why, it pushed me to design. It was like, what, man, this is merchandising. She don't know anything about design. So, you know what, let me just go ahead and do something that I know I have control over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pretty
100%.
much. And that was what pushed me to start Leonardo and Royce.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so where does that go from there? Like, what is it? What are those first moments of designing? Like, what were your first ideas that were popping up in your head?
The first few designs were crappy, man. Like, oh my God. And I was holding on to this, man. I had a Leonardo and Royce shirt, man. And I was holding on to this shirt, man, for so long because I just thought that, like, this shirt will eventually, be worth something on eBay or something. Somebody would try to auction it off. But, man, those designs were horrible, man. Like, I look back at it now and I'm just like, shit, man, I thought I had something going on. I thought I was doing something, man, but I had no concept, bro. Okay. Like, I just had the name at this point, I got connected with a graphic designer out there in Vincennes, and man, he screen printed some shirts up for me, right? So I go back home and I go to like the beauty supply store and I'm getting like all of these cheap shirts for like $3 or whatever, man, bringing them back, spending my hard-earned money or whatever on these shirts. And I give the shirts to him, man, and he screwed up when I say every shirt, bro, every shirt was screwed up.
Damn.
Like, it wasn't, nothing was salvageable. Like, it was horrible. And we had a falling out or whatever. Sure. But like the direction that I wanted to take Leonardo and Royce, man, I was so naive, to the cost and production that it takes to kind of run like a luxury brand or whatever. So, and that's the direction that I wanted to take Leonardo and Royce. I wanted that brand to be luxury. I wanted to do luggage and, all type of different briefcases and different things like that. And once I started diving into the cost to get these things manufactured and produced, I was like, you know what? Let me pivot. Let me pivot and figure something else out. You know what I mean? And so that's when, as you mentioned, Sovereign Concept came into place.
Okay, so what's Sovereign Concept doing as the pivot from Leonardo and Royce?
Yeah, so the pivot had come when it was my cousin and I, we were with my uncle, we were in Chicago, and we were just going around, different retail stores and everything. And, my uncle's, he's heavily into fashion, man. He's a real dapper guy as well, and he's talking to me and my cousin, and he's looking, at different items, and he's like, you guys could do the same thing. Like, you guys could do the same thing these people are doing. He's like, they're ordering this stuff from here, they're putting this on here, and they're marking this up for, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying. But I'm like, man, I don't get me getting the blank shirt and just putting my tag in it. Like, how's that going to translate? Especially for like an up and coming brand. Like, if you're not known for just t-shirts, you come in with a blank t-shirt and you're trying to charge like $75. It's like, bro, I can
nobody's going to buy it because they don't know. Yeah.
They don't understand, but I just saw, the broader picture on what he was saying, so I started Sovereign Concept and I just started doing like snapback caps. This one, like snapbacks were just coming back on the scene and being like a real thing. So I just kind of dived into doing like snapback caps. And I didn't really want to do the screen print because that's pretty much what every brand does to enter into the clothing industry.
Yeah.
So I was just pretty much, I just hopped on the snapback trend, man. And that was unsuccessful as well. And as we had the conversation we had off air, you know, I explained to you once I was trying to get the trademark that it was a conservation in Oklahoma that had that trademark, Sovereign Concepts.
Yeah.
So once that happened and I knew, you know, that, and I could have continued on with Sovereign Concept, but me and how I am, I wanted to be original and I didn't want to have my brand associated with anything that was out there, you know? So at that point, that's when I reached like a low. Like I was like, you know what, I'm done with this, man, because it's so expensive, man. Like clothing is very, very expensive. So
you're pouring it all out and you know, your heart and soul into all of it. And it's like, you see what happens with the shirts, then you see what happens with the caps, then you're going through this, I don't know if I call it a battle, but at least just trying to figure out, okay, how do I separate the concept from something that already exists, essentially. And then, okay, you talk about being at this low. I read that you, I thought I wrote it down here. Where is this at? Okay, put it all on the line, and then you lost it all. So like you're at this point, what takes you from here to St. Avenue in 2016?
Man, friends, my friends, man, because
community.
At that point, I was still trying to figure out, like, all right, do I still want to even pursue clothing? At this point, you know, do I just go to Chicago, go to New York, and become a buyer, you know, for a big retail chain, and just, you know, ride off into the sunset and be satisfied with that, you know? My friend had reached out to me and just like, you know, hey, man, what's going on with the brand? Like, I haven't seen you post anything about it. I seen you deleted all the pictures off the Instagram. Like, are you not doing it anymore? And the answer was, yeah, man, I'm not. Like, I'm not doing the brand anymore because I didn't have the passion for it either. You know, like, once you put a lot into it and everything, you know, kind of goes downhill, that can deflate you.
Yeah, because it feels like you've given all you can give.
Yeah, 100%. And then once he was like, I think you should get back into it. He was like, man, you got a knack for it. I think that this is your lane. Whatever you need me to do to support you, I'm willing to do it, you know? And I think sometimes that's all you need is like one person can believe in you. You know what I mean? One person can believe in you and that can propel you, you know? And once he said that, I'm like, hey, man, if I get started back into this, like, I need your full-on support, however, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And eventually, that support didn't come. But, you know what I'm saying? That's still my guy, and I love him to death.
But he got you to that first initial step of, like, pulling yourself back out of the hole.
Yeah, 100%, you know? And so, once I, you know, got back into the groove of, like, hey, I'm going to start this brand and figure it out. I got to come up with a new name and everything. It was just like, you know what, once I lock in and once I figure something out, like, I'm all in, man. There's no stopping, no giving up, no matter what happens, you know. And yeah, that's where we at now.
So how do you land on St. Avenue? What's the definition? What does that mean to you?
So yeah, the way St. Avenue had come about, I had wrote down around 200 to 250 different, like, names that I wanted. You know, a lot of the names were very, very cheesy. I think I told you, like, I had a name like Hallelujah, man. I had like Hallelujah. I had 3 a.m. It was just a lot of crazy off the wall names, man. But I wanted something catchy. I wanted something that was easy to say. You know, something that just rolled off the tongue easy. And I feel like Sovereign Concept was a little hard for some people to say. You know, so. I remember I just had Avenue down because this was like a time where a lot of, like, the brands were named after, like, titles and stuff. Like Hood by Air, for example. You know, so it was like the era where a lot of that was happening. So I remember, you know, I was in my kitchen and I just kept saying, like, Avenue, like something Avenue. And so it just rolled and I was just like, St. Avenue. And I just kept saying St. Avenue, St. Avenue, St. Avenue. And it just rolled off the tongue easy, right? So come up with the name and I'm like, man, this is a cool name. I'm like, but now I need a meaning behind this name, you know? So with saint meaning, holy or virtuous. And, as I told you, I'm not holier than thou. I'm a man of many mistakes, but I am a virtuous person, and virtuous meaning a person with high morals and standards, And so avenue, we obviously know a place of residence, a street, but it also means progressing towards a purpose. So I just put those two together, a virtuous person progressing towards a purpose. And that's what St. Avenue means. And whatever that purpose is for you, follow through.
100%. That's a straight up bar, 100%. Yeah. And I love, again, the intentionality behind your work. And I think the reason that we dive into some of this backstory on the show is because I feel like the context is so necessary for what's going on in the present.
100%.
And it informs it. And I hope that the listeners and viewers understand this is why we dive into the backstory. It's like we want to know the person, but also like what's fueling what you do. And I think all the way back to not just getting fitted with your mom, but like why ending up to like leaving or intentionally failing the ASAP to pursue something of your own, pursuing different brands, Leonardo and Royce, Sovereign Concept, pursuing something that, giving everything that you have. I think that's very intentional work. Yes. I think it's easy for people to say I'm giving 110%. I think it's another thing to actually be doing that and know what that means. Mm-hmm. And I think in your story, I think lies kind of the root of what that is. And I appreciate you sharing that. And how did you know that, or what were the first ideas for the St. Avenue brand and concept that you really wanted to infuse with this intentionality and purpose?
So when I first started the brand, I just wanted to get the name out. Sure. So that was the first thing. And honestly, a lot of the storytelling and building didn't come until later because things moved rapidly once I started St. Avenue. So I started St. Avenue in August of 2016. I think around that time is when Kanye had came to Indy for that St. Pablo tour, whatever. So I wanted to make some merch for that. So I just had my logo and I just made, me and the girl I was with at the time, I just made me and her a couple items for the concert. And then, people just wanted to start buying them. So I'm like, oh, shit. So I don't really have time to really kind of develop like a story or a true design. I was just using, my St. Avenue logo.
Yeah.
And then after that, I remember taking a trip to New York. All right. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to New York for a few days. Let me drop some stuff off to the Breakfast Club. Right. So I dropped some stuff off to the Breakfast Club for Charlamagne, Angela Yee, DJ Envy, right? And this is in September. I'll never forget this. This is September 16th of 2016. So I dropped these items off to them. And in my mind, I'm thinking I'm just, I'm out here hustling, man. I'm just, doing the Lord's work. You know what I mean? Doing my due diligence. I dropped these items off. And I'm not thinking that they would wear them. And so like a week later, DJ Envy is wearing a St. Avenue hat, man. And he's wearing it on like one of the biggest interviews that they had. It was like The Game and Meek Mill were beefing at this time. Okay. So like he wore it during that interview, you know? And so I got a very great response from that. And from then, man, it was just like, from there, it was like Angela Yee, she wore my hoodie next. And then after that, it was Chelsea Handler, she wore my hat. And so it was like, man, I had no time to really like design. I was just putting out like the simple stuff that I had. Yeah. You know what I mean? So once I took a break, I told you some personal things that had happened, off camera, that I had to take a break from St. Avenue. And during that time where I took the break is where, I started building up the story more, designing things with more intention, and just kind of wanted to tell a story about feelings and how people feel and put out things that are thought-provoking.
For sure.
So that all played a part into it. So once, I got back on the scene with St. Avenue at the end of 2019. That's just kind of been something that, I want to continuously build upon.
100%.
Storytelling and, kind of putting out products that are thought-provoking.
Yeah. Well, it's like after you take the break, it's the next step in the evolution of this brand. That's wild that that story, when I read about it and we had talked about it, I was thinking about, I'm like, why does it sound so familiar to me? And it's because it makes me think about J. Cole's story about sitting outside of Rockefeller and trying to just get his tape into Jay's hand and finally getting it done.
Right.
And it's just like, we talk about doing everything you can to make something successful. Like, that's what that means. Yeah. You know, that's an example of that work. Did it feel... Okay, so what were those designs that you made that you ended up dropping off?
It was just the St. Avenue logo, which I did the logo. Each letter was like a different color. Okay. So I did that on a hat. I did a regular St. Avenue Circle logo on a hoodie for Angela Yee with a couple hats. It was just like my Circle logo, standard logo. Yeah, nothing crazy. Just my logo.
Did you develop, did they reach out to you after you had dropped off stuff? Or so how did that relationship kind of form?
There's no relationship. So
they just had your stuff and they were just...
So I just dropped it off. So when I was still doing Sovereign Concept, I had reached out and I had got DJ Envy's manager information. Okay, it was online. I mean, it's on his page. It's just research, you know what I mean? So I called him and I just got sizes, you know, and I ended up getting sizes for Angela Yee, getting sizes for Charlamagne, you know, just from talking to this one person.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But it wasn't like, I didn't know this guy from a can of paint.
So you just dropped off like a gang of stuff?
Yeah, I just dropped it off. I just dropped 3 separate packages off with their names on them, you know, and the security let me in. He was like, you can't go upstairs, you know, but he was like, I can take you back here. Yeah. He took me to this back room. He's like, all of this is you? I was like, yeah, this is me, a new brand I just started up. And it was so much stuff in there, you know, and they get stuff all the time. So I didn't, I honestly did this, man, just thinking that like, hey, you know, it might get thrown into the back. They might never see it, whatever. And I was still happy about that. Like, they wore it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I was happy, man. Like, after I dropped it off, I was so happy. Like, man, I was feeling like they already wore it. Like, I met them and everything, but I didn't. You know what I mean? But, man, everything with St. Avenue, man, is organic. Like, I don't reach out, man, for any of the opportunities or anything that I get. Like, these are all organic relationships, man, from the ground up. The thing that I chased the most and that I ended up getting was the opportunity to work with Butter. You know what I mean? That was something that I chased after. But every other opportunity, man, has literally, you know, knocked on my door, man, and was on my doorstep for me to execute. So,
for sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I appreciate you bringing it to Butter and back kind of to indie. So let's see. Okay, so you had 3 drops on All-Star Weekend in February. Pre-game podcast, We Don't Run, and with Fitz, the artist. I wanted to ask you about, so the hoodie I'm rocking right now is one of the Art by Fitz collabs. You shared a post and you're talking about, you know, transitioning into the storytelling mode about this particular hoodie because there's a number 66 on the back. Can you give us the history, the origin of it? Because I didn't realize that was the reason. I was like, this is dope. I'm just going to buy it. But then when you shared the story behind it, I'm like, okay, this feels like I'm wearing a bit of intentional history.
Yeah. So it all had come about because Fitz, he reached out and he wanted to do something and he wanted to kind of center it around Black History Month. So, and he was like, well, you know, All-Star is coming up too. This is something we can probably release around All-Star as well. So I'm like, okay, well, let's keep the basketball element, you know. And that's why you see it's kind of like a, you know, redesign of the Phoenix Suns, you know what I mean? And then like, you know, on the back it's the number 66, which is, you know, the year that the Black Panther Party was founded in Oakland, California. So that's the reason why we have the number 66 on there, is to commemorate that. During Black History Month.
Well, I love it because I feel like unless you know, talk to you or talk to Fitz, talk to somebody who knows, you don't know that. And I feel like those little intentional touches are something that you don't often see in fashion in particular. I think you talk about you were initially not about the screen printing so much. I think about how in fashion, to me, it's always been, it seems like it's just like the churn and burn a little bit. Or it gets to the point, I like kind of minimalist stuff a lot of times, but people can just slap on a word on a shirt and then it's just like, oh, it's $75. But it's not, there's no intention behind it. It's just like, I'm trying to make a buck, which is fine. Go get yours. But I think one of the reasons I'm drawn to your work is because of, like, there's always something else going on. There's always something else at play. You talk about missing out on Butter. which is a big time art fair going on, particularly highlighting Black artists here in the city of Indianapolis. Shout out to Gang Gang. They address this gap in highlighting Black artists specifically here in the city of Indianapolis. And they're addressing part of this conversation around art that I think people have been trying to have in the city for a long time, but haven't. And now they have this platform. For yourself, who comes from the region, now finds themselves in Indy, running with this brand, trying to make it work and last, and trying to make something that's timeless, I think. What do you think, from your perspective, is missing from that art conversation, maybe from a fashion standpoint? What do you think are we not talking about enough right now in Indy that you're trying to address, or something that you think just in the ether is something that we need to be pulling to the center?
I think things are constantly evolving here in Indy. I don't want to say that anything is missing because they don't know what's missing until they know it's missing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, for sure.
I just think just in this area, man, just be more open. Like, that's something that I can suggest. You know what I mean? Just be more open. Dialogue, you know what I mean?
Sure.
These different conversations and also demonstrations, I think, are very pivotal, for the growth here in the city. But I think right now that it is a renaissance era here in Indy, and I'm very proud to be a part of that in any way, possible. And shaping that, you know what I mean? But I think it's just one of them things, you don't know what you don't know, you know what I mean? So it's like once you start integrating and bringing more people in and start having more conversations, then you'll start seeing a lot more changes happening here in the city. Anything that you feel like that most people don't know that you're hoping to kind of pull into that dialogue and that conversation? I do know a lot. Anything that you can put us on game to, particularly within that. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's kind of hard to say, like, to put somebody on game when they think they know the game. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, so that's what you mean by being open. Yeah, you just got to be open. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, my level of expertise I might have some information that you may not know, and that's obviously just in a lot of conversations that I do have, around the city, and a lot of different people that I do, come to meet. Like, I do know a lot of different things that they don't know. So I feel that I do have, a niche, and I feel that I am very beneficial in a lot of different ways, and depending on, but it just really depends on what are we doing, you know what I'm saying? Sure, on what particular, like, because there's a whole bunch of different conversations we could be having that you might know this over here, maybe not over here, and how do we mold that together? 100%. How do we bring, you said more demonstrations, what are ways that we can bring people together to have some of those dialogues and conversations? So, and I think it's like starting your own thing, just kind of doing your own thing. Like, once you build it, they will come. And that's what I've been learning here, me and you had this conversation off record, and, with me not being from here, I have to find my own way. Sure. So I just feel like being original, being authentic, staying true to who you are. I really don't play the politics, you know what I mean, in the city or whatever. But I just kind of stay true to what it is that I do, stay true to who it is that I am, and just do what I know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can only do what I know and can contribute, what I know to the greater good. So, well, again, that's an intentional aspect. And I think, too, something we talked about off air is this community aspect of building relationships. And like you said, for the All-Star weekend, you had a bunch of stuff that was going on, and, like, you needed things to happen here and here, and it happened because you have built those relationships with the folks doing the work here in the community. Do you feel like you've been able to foster a strong community here in the city? Most definitely, 100%. And I think All-Star was definitely a testament to that. For sure. Yeah, 3 different collabs with 3 different brands that I highly respect. It was tough, very tough. I would not recommend anybody just go out there and do anything like that, but it was fun. But it was definitely daunting, what I mean? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sleepless nights, that come with that. But I just think that is just another step into growth, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's another step into kind of like building my own thing. For sure. For myself, and also highlighting others as well, during that time.
Anything that you learned or big takeaways that you had from that weekend that you're like really trying to implement now?
Yeah. So what I've learned is that patience, man. A lot of patience, man.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of patience. I learned a lot of vulnerability, being vulnerable.
Okay.
Through that, you know what I mean, in business, because I'm rarely vulnerable in business that way, you know, but just being vulnerable and open, you know, through that whole process, I think that was a little bit different, you know, because now, like, with my brand, it's just me. You know, I'm taking opinions and, you know, suggestions from other people as well, you know, because we all in this for, you know, the common goal.
100%.
But we all have different ways of doing things or different ways that we look at things, you know, so.
How does that vulnerability show up for you in business?
Man, just being open, man, you know, just being open and having the hard conversations, you know, and I think I went through that with each one of them, you know, we've had, you know, difficult conversations with each collab, you know, it's, what else? Trust. It taught me a lot about trust too, you know? Because, like, again, a lot of this I'm doing on my own, but now I'm doing it with other people. Them trusting me with their money, I'm trusting them with my money. And, you know, honestly, I think that's what made all of those stronger, is because when it definitely came down to the money and trust, like, we didn't, you know, it wasn't any shady business going on.
That's always good.
All. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
always
like,
good
with
the money, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like, it's that, and then they're also trusting each other with your brands.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? It's like a bad event can be bad for everybody, bad for everybody's business, because it then it can reflect poorly in whatever way. And it's 100%. Like, you have to have a hard conversation to make sure stuff goes right.
Yeah.
Because if everything is always on the up and up, which I guess seems great in an ideal situation, it doesn't necessarily mean there aren't cracks or things that we can smooth over, gloss over, figure out
100%
before showtime occurs, you know?
100%.
And I think it's a testament, again, to the intentionality of your work and the root of community that's at the foundation of what you want to do, and it's at the foundation of your story. So I think this is a good segue leading us into one of our new segments, which is called Give 'Em Your Flowers, sponsored by Frida's Flowers. Shout out to Madeline McKinnon, where guests take a moment to give someone or something their well-deserved flowers. So, LaStar, who would you like to give your flowers to today?
And can I give them to more than one person?
Absolutely. As many people as you want.
So I would want to give the flowers to my mother, to my beautiful kids, man. My daughter actually just got inducted into the National Junior Honor Society for her school yesterday, you know, so I definitely want to give my daughter more flowers.
Hell yeah.
And then, man, as far as design goes, Michael Washington, man, by Michelangelo. That's another guy, man, I want to give his flowers to. I want to give him his flowers. Man, that's a long-term friend. And, man, he's pivotal, man. He does some amazing work here in Indy, man. As far as clothing design goes, he does a lot of one-off pieces. We've planned and talked about doing something, you know, we just haven't aligned yet to get that going. But that's somebody who I have, you know, deep reverence for sure. And just want to, you know, give my man his flowers, man.
Hell
for sure.
yeah.
He's doing some amazing work.
Well, I appreciate that. Shout out to mom. Shout out your kids. Shout out your daughter. Congrats. And shout out to Michael. I appreciate you sharing that. Everybody deserves good things, as our mutual friend Ella shared on our episode and our conversation. And so I'm glad we can highlight them today. Again, shout out to Madeline and Frida's for sponsoring this particular segment. Frida's Flowers, providing bold, powerful floral experiences that are sure to make a mark on your spirit. I have a couple more questions before we wrap it up here, but I did want to touch on something I think is really interesting, and I'd love to get your perspective on, is the design community around here. Like, there are a lot of artists and designers that end up working in fashion. Obviously, you worked with 3 different brands, one of them being their own, you know, specific clothing brand. What does that community look like here? Is it collaborative? Are people all working together? Is there like a table we all come down and sit at, or how does that community work here in Indianapolis?
Right now, I think everybody is pretty much doing their own thing right now. You know, shout out to We Don't Run. You know, that was open to doing a collaboration, because we are 2 brands that really don't collab with other brands that often. So I think, everyone is still kind of doing their own thing, still trying to figure it out
Sure.
and make way, and with Indy not being like a fashion forward city, I mean,
Right.
that's pretty much all you can do until, we start seeing like residuals from the efforts that we're all putting in.
Yeah.
I got a couple different things that I'm working on too, like, and I can speak on it. I was interviewed I had an interview during All-Star Weekend with the G League and American Express. So I'm working on some things with them that'll eventually be, to light here soon, but it's just like different things like that. Just kind of keep putting a light here in Indy on fashion. I think that's going to continuously help us all grow into where we can all, get at the table and come together and figure
100%.
out how we can continue to propel things. But I feel, on the individual level, we're all trying to just kind of like plant that flag to just kind of be established more, to be a household name. Because like personally, I don't, obviously I don't think there's anything wrong with collaboration, but I feel like when you still have, brands that are still trying to make a way, still thriving, sometimes it doesn't make sense to do a collaboration when you're both still trying to, fight for a position, of establishment.
Yeah.
I just feel once either one brand is more established or, it kind of makes sense to like, let me pull you on up as well versus us both on the same,
Right.
Again,
the intentionality of like who we're working with and why.
Yeah,
doesn't mean we don't like what you're doing or like we can't all continue to thrive and make waves in the space.
1,000%.
Is it were there any like designers or fashion brands that you were inspired by that came from Indianapolis specifically, or is this whole community fairly new?
This whole community is fairly new.
Okay.
Excuse me.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was inspired, man, by high-end design. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much like where everything for me have derived from.
Yeah.
From the luxury market versus streetwear. Now, I did have, streetwear brands like Anichi and Echo and different things like that. Fubu, obviously, like those were obviously pivotal brands, streetwear brands growing up, Bape, about all of that. So like these were pivotal streetwear brands. Just growing up in the inner city and things like that. But, I still had a passion for, high-end fashion. And so I think you kind of see that in a lot of my other work where, like, I kind of blend the two, So that's where a lot of my inspiration come from, unfortunately, I haven't been inspired by any brands here in Indy, but, like, it's like, again, Indy,
but it's new. It's still established.
New.
It's still planting the flags.
Yeah,
like
100%. Yeah, we're still planting the flags here, but I do see, a lot of good brands on the horizon. There's a lot of, different brands doing some great things out here.
100%.
So definitely shout out to all of them. And,
well, yourself included.
Yeah, 100%.
So, okay. What, you've got all this stuff going on. It feels like it can be hard to get away from what is work. What do you like to do when you're not doing St. Avenue specific stuff? Like what does LaStar do on his off time?
Oh yeah, man, I'm in the gym. I like to run. I'm hiking a lot. I'm in art museums, conservatories. So you see me, I'm in nature a lot, man. I'm spending time with my kids. So that's pretty sporting events. So that's pretty much it, man. Like I'm a really easygoing guy. Like,
hell yeah.
I like to do a lot of safe things.
Any particular outdoor spots that you like that you don't want to put on?
Man, Turkey Run, man. Man, Turkey Run is my spot, man. I can put it's so huge out there. You know what I mean? So. I don't care about putting people on. I don't
want to flood the spaces that you call your own.
It's kind of far, man. So people's not gonna get up and just say, "Hey, I want to go to Turkey Run." It's a nice little drive, but I like to go out there a lot, man.
For sure.
When I got some downtime, and just relax, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Relax, hike.
Turkey Run is dope. I love to hike. Being outside is nice, and the weather's turning here in Indy, so it's nice to get out there and get a walk in.
Yeah, I love the smell of nature, man. I love it.
That's a great freaking smell, 100%.
Yeah, man.
All right, you talked about G League, American Express, but what's next for St. Avenue? What do you got going on right now?
Man, so right now I'm just, like I told you, I got the stuff with the G League going on. I got a couple magazine articles and things that I'm actually going to release today.
Oh, nice.
So got that going on. I got some new clothing that I'm going to release here soon, some jewelry as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, man, just staying busy, man, and consistent with what I'm doing. So, the next big thing, got to stay tuned for that.
Yep,
not talking about that right now, but I do have some other things here in the works.
Okay,
coming up later this year. So.
How do folks stay tapped in? How do they follow you? Where do they find you at? And how do they support you?
Instagram, stay tapped in on my Instagram at St. Avenue, all one word. That's pretty much where I'm at all the time, and my website links are on there as well. So that's pretty much where you can get all the up-to-date news on St. Avenue. That's where you'll find out anything new or anything releasing is on my Instagram page.
Get on Instagram, follow St. Avenue, turn on notifications, hit the little bell so that way you know when new stuff is dropping. I have to create reminders because that stuff sells out very quickly, and I get mad when I miss stuff. I appreciate you being on here, LaStar, and sitting down and having this conversation and sharing so much knowledge and wisdom about the things that you've been working on and your journey. Last question before you go. What advice would you give to up-and-coming artists, creators, people in fashion, whatever it might be, somebody who's just getting started wanting to pursue their passion?
Man, listen to all of the cliches that you hear, man. The just do it, the keep working hard, all of the cliches that you ever hear about, like, not giving up on what it is that you love, and if it's a passion to you, stick with it. Like, all of those things are so true, and I don't want to come up here because I don't have anything new to say. Like, the things that the foundation has already been laid. You know what I mean? Everything that they tell you as far as, like, staying true to who you are, staying authentic, being organic, building those organic relationships, use your discernment when dealing with people in business, and when you feel like a decision, isn't something that you normally do, use your discernment. Hard work does pay off. Just do it. If you got an idea, just put it out. It's a thing, man, where I always say this, and I had to kind of use this for myself. Like, I love Nike, man, right? I love Nike. Nike doesn't always put out good shoes, though. Every time but that doesn't mean that I don't like the brand. You know what I mean? But it's like, Nike's not gonna put out they're not sitting in there thinking like, damn, you know what? Let me take 8 years to put this one shoe out. You know what I mean? Like, they just putting it out, and you can tell they just put the shit out. Like,
they're not Kendrick between albums.
Yeah, no,
they're not taking the time.
They're not. You know what I mean? So it's just like, man, just do it. Like, if you want to do something, you want to pursue, your career in design or art, whatever, podcasting, however, just do it. Just do what feels right to you. And don't give up.
I love it.
Don't give up, man. Like, I've wanted to give up a million times, and sometimes I still have days, where I'm, second guessing, like, shit, is this even right? But, like, so many opportunities have come to me for not giving up, for staying dedicated to what it is that I'm doing, staying true to myself, that it's like, man, I would be a fool, to give up right now or to stop. It'd be a lot harder to quit. Versus to continue going, man.
I appreciate you sharing that. That's a great bar to end on. Don't give up. Just do it. Nike, sponsor the show. Collaborate with LaStar.
Come on,
let's do all the things.
We waiting on that one. We are waiting on that.
Let's make it happen. Nike, you know that I've been rocking your stuff too. Let's make it happen. We're going to make it happen. LaStar,
it's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody else, these episodes drop on Tuesdays, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Go to Instagram, follow us at Conversation Pod Piece. And also go to our website, conversationpiecePod.com, to catch up on all the latest episodes, everything that is in the archives, and for all of our new news that we have going on. Shout out to Mike Lee behind the cameras. Shout out to John Overton and Popular Rapture behind the mics. Shout out to Roundtable Recording for this beautiful space. And then shout out to Madeline and Frida's Flowers for making us look so good. Again, shout out to St. Avenue. Shout out to LaStar for hooking me up. Shout out to We Don't Run. Lots of shout outs to end this episode. We got a lot of really cool stuff coming up the rest of the first half of the year and going into the second. Until then, I've been the titular Patrick. This has been Conversation Piece. This has been St. Avenue. This has been LaStar Jackson. And we will see you soon.
See ya.